Welcome to the Reinvented Life with Pamela Chanel David. Do you want to step up your game? Pursue your dreams. Be the best version of yourself. The Reinvented Life is here to help. The Reinvented Life is about courage. It's about staying relevant. It takes grit. It defies gravity. It's about taking inventory of where you are today and where you want to go. Embrace change. Make things possible and reinvent your life. Call in with questions at 888-994-4995. Now, it's time to reinvent your life with Pamela Chanel.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Reinvented Life. I am very excited to bring you today's show. I'm Pamela Chanel David, founder of the Reinvented Life. And what we do here is help people make successful transitions in business and in life. People forget all of the time that one's business is reflective of where one is personally. So that's what today's show is all about, how they connect, how we can help people make their businesses more profitable. We're going to talk about return on investment. We're going to talk about the stock gaps that people find in their business and hopefully help you to release some of those so that you can find success in your business and in your life. Today on the show are the owners of AMP2 and the Brooklyn Cafe, Dawn and Freddie, to really engage in this conversation because they're in the entertainment business. We all are here to serve our clients. We're all here to serve our communities. And I'm very excited about this business conversation today. So welcome, Dawn and Freddie, to the Reinvented Life. Welcome to, there you are. Welcome to the business show.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
What a week.
Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely. You know, this is part 2 of our show this week, and I think it is fun for people to realize that there's reinvention that can take place in their businesses as well. And just like in their personal lives and in the life coaching that we do at the Reinvented Life, we do just as much, if not more, with the businesses to help people along that track.
And it's interesting because I just got off the phone right before we came on the air, and there's a gentleman here who wants to put content on their network. And what's beginning to happen is they are looking for providers to put network in and to put content in. And they had listened to the show yesterday, and they want more. So it's an interesting subject matter that we're talking about today because we've been talking about this on our show all day. So it's just growing and going. And what I love it is that now we got the West Coast is going to be sharing the same thing that we did on the East Coast today from 12 to 2 Eastern time.
Which is really exciting because you talk about more than weight loss and mindset, and that's tremendous. But how that impacts your business, even if you don't have to lose weight, even if your mindset is clear and you're 100% where you need to be, business changes and life circumstances change. And as we get older and our kids grow up and our parents age, and of course then we age, what we want out of life changes. Is there a way to stay in the same business and maneuver that change? Or does it mean we have to change course?
So I call it like a modification. A lot of clients that I work with, a lot of business clients that I work with, it's very similar to the mindset that we address personally, which is at the end of the day, keeping relevant. And I think that is the concept that most people forget about. That is the concept that even with business, they forget about keeping relevant. Now, yes, to answer your question, absolutely, people can stay in the same business. But it's the distinctions that they make, how they roll with it, that's an important. I think this is a great story of staying relevant because, as we know, during the last several years, and the pandemic has really served up, for lack of any other term, the absolute necessity for change. And one of the things that has been so much fun, actually, over the last few years during all of the difficulty of this pandemic is teaching businesses and working with businesses on reinventing what they're doing, particularly so they can maintain or, in many cases, even increase their ROI. And I'm
And
going
can
to
you
give a great
explain
example.
ROI to people? Because we've had a lot of people that are listening, and when I even asked them to put in the title, they look at me. So, what does ROI mean, and what does it mean to you as a business coach?
Absolutely. So, exactly that. So, ROI is one's return on investment. People spend money in their businesses. They're spending money to keep their doors open, whether that be a physical location or whether that be an online business. There are expenses involved with any business, marketing expenses in a physical location, rental or mortgage expenses in some cases. There's obviously, in the case of a business that's more than a solopreneur, there is hiring expenses. There are wages to be paid. There are insurance to be had. Everything we do, we take an evaluation for, and just like in one's personal life, we take an evaluation, an inventory, if you will, of where that business is, what they're spending money on, and then we help them evaluate, is it getting them the biggest return on their investment or that ROI that they can. What's
So,
interesting is when we start to get down to evaluating these, and the story that I was going to share, and I think this is a really compelling story, is during the pandemic, the restaurant industry, as an example, was one of the hardest hit industries. And restaurants needed to get creative. So many got creative in terms of coming up with programs, delivery programs, or coming up with windows that they could safely prepare food and hand it over to customers. But one of the really exciting stories that came out of the pandemic was a client that I have. And yes, they put in place a lot of takeout and a lot of delivery. But what was very exciting for this particular case is their expenses were the same. You know, they were getting some temporary relief from the city, from governments, from landlords, and all of that. But they still had the expenses to run the business. They still needed to buy the food. They still hired the chef to prepare it. They still had all of the expenses of the equipment, all of the utilities, all of their business insurance. Everything stayed the same. So what we did, and it goes back to your question, Dawn, of can they stay the same? They can, but they have to be able and willing to be very creative. And it's when businesses are creative that they can actually increase that return on those investments. So this restaurant in particular was not part of a chain. It was just a local single restaurant that had been in business for over 50 years in their
Wow.
community. And what was fun about it, because they had very loyal customers, they had patrons that were now third generation coming to this restaurant, enjoying this restaurant, and loved their classic Italian food. So what I helped them do was create an online version. So very traditional business. They didn't really have any online presence. And I helped them create an online business, which was a cooking school. people could actually sign up for their cooking school, and as their chefs were preparing their orders, which they were doing anyway, we installed live cameras into their kitchen. So now their patrons were paying for these live cooking lessons, and they were learning about how to cook all of these incredible recipes that they had come to love and enjoy. And for the restaurant, it was beneficial because they had a whole new group, most of them younger, that were excited about being able to still have an experience with the restaurant, but of course they couldn't be there one-on-one during that time. It became a whole new extension, and that's the key to this, is people can stay in the same kind of business, but they can extend their business and make more sense and increase their customer base. I think that answers your question, Dawn.
It does in business. And
But I got a curveball.
okay.
Because the example that you gave with a restaurant, because I had a restaurant, you serve soup, you're getting a physical soup. You serve a burger, you're getting a physical item. But now let's talk about what we do. We do media. Media is a twofold serving of a sandwich. Part of that sandwich is what the client brings, and the other part of the sandwich is how we capture it and deliver it. In our business, ROI is a few steps down the line. You got to have content. You got to have clear delivery. You got to have the ability of being clear, informative, entertaining. You got to have all these different parts of the sandwich before you can serve it. So it's a good question. It's a great answer. But I want to throw a curveball at you. Is before we talk ROI, before we serve something, we got to have some pieces of the sandwich to serve, no?
I think the same thing would be for a client who does coaching. How do you help a client who does coaching find their niche and monetize being a coach? Because it's nothing tangible, but yet it exists. Do you believe it? Do you have to see it? It's just, even what you do, you're a coach.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's everything you're talking about. So this particular example already had, Freddie, what you're talking about, which is content. And we helped them to create, in essence, a virtual live cookbook. And they didn't have every recipe on there, but they certainly had a dozen or so recipes. That was their content that they were able to now serve up in a way they had never been able to do before. And so whether it is, Dawn, to your point, coaching or an in-person business, it starts with the content. Without the content, without the valuable assets that one has, a business struggles and a business is difficult to either get off the ground or keep off the ground and certainly thrive. So the key to it is, and many times when businesses come to me for coaching, this is the first thing we talk about, is what is their value in, traditional business language. You could call it their USP, or their unique selling proposition, which is basically a very fancy term for what do they have that they can serve up to their clients that are of value. And whether, again, that be in person or online, that's where the important thing is. When I work with coaches, and I work with many of them, and I'm actually, as you said, I'm one myself. I do business coaching. I do life coaching. And again, as a reminder, oftentimes the clients that are referred to me as business clients, we end up uncovering things personally that are affecting their life, that are affecting their business. And what we find, it's a holistic picture. But oftentimes there's no tangible asset in coaching, but there's certainly value. And whatever specific niche one is coaching in, the more information, the more experience, the more they have to bring to their clients, the quicker their return on investment, because time is money. And I always remind specifically people that do consulting, that do coaching, that do any kind of that kind of work, the faster that you can help uncover what the issue is for that client, help them to retool, to reinvent, to reimagine, put some new things in place, the quicker they're going to see that return on investment, the sooner they're going to see the increase in profitability. And at the end of the day, you could be doing great things out there. And I remind people that do coaching all the time, they can be doing great things. But unless they are monetizing that, unless they are helping their clients who they're working with and their business themselves become a profitable business, they can't stay in business for long.
It's interesting because when I started working with Freddie, our business model was a lot different than it is. We didn't have the overhead that we have. We didn't have the crew that we have. We didn't have AC and rental and all these things. So we had one model of doing things. And you get used to that model. And then today someone asked us to price on something, and I said to Freddie, what do you think about this price? And he said, well, we've never done it like that before. And I said, true, but we also have A, B, C, and D. And he said, true. So I sent it off to the client. They didn't bat an eye. They totally understood and said, okay, that's going to go in our business proposal to our client. So I think what I've learned is that people don't expect free, but if you offer it, they'll take it. They expect value. Remember, we once had that client that said there has to be an equal exchange, whether it be financial, whether it be time. There has to be a mutual exchange of something for it to be a business or any type of transaction. So whereas our business model has changed in one sense, no one expects it any other way. It's almost as if, I hate to say this, you set a boundary, right? We have to say this is our net worth and our value because time is money.
But what she's mentioned is that the ROI is the ability to learn, to make an adjustment. It doesn't necessarily transfers into money yet, but because you've learned and you've learned how to make the adjustment, and it's true, our platform has changed, and it's changed for the better, for the growth. My ROI, I measure it in what's around me. Now, you've been here. It wasn't always like this.
Right.
That's my ROI. When I see you light up and you're a coach, then I got to be doing something right.
Well, that adjustment, Freddie, is the exact distinction that we work with. The adjustment you're speaking of is the changes and is the willingness to change. And this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where, whether it is one's life experience or one's business experience, it generally goes back to, is there any hesitancy to change? Is there any fear to change? Because as in life, in business, people get comfortable. And I know I talk about this dozens of times a day, but people get comfortable with how things are. And the change can evoke a lot of fear in people. Whether it's a new product, whether it's a new pricing structure, whether it's a new value proposition that they're putting in. At the end of the day, in business and in life, success comes from, and I mentioned this on part one on the show yesterday, fluidity. How fluid is a business in terms of the necessary changes that need to take place? Because support systems change. New in media, I know this is absolutely huge. New opportunities come at lightning speed to get messages out there, which is the media business and is the entertainment business. The more fluid one is, or the more fluid one's business is, those changes can happen more readily. And when it is that resistance to change, and it can be in a business or it can be in a life, that things get stalled. And stalling has a lot to do, procrastinating, if you will, and that happens a lot. There's a block that happens, and then that is the number one thing that affects that return on investment, that profitability that we're talking about. Time is absolutely of the essence, and people find it both in their life and in their business. And the beauty of the Reinvented Life and the coaching that happens here is that we're able to identify it, take inventory of it, and help people in fairly quick order turn things around. The quicker a client can come in, get what they need, implement what they need, and see the results of it is the actual marker of how my coaching business or any coaching business or any consulting business is doing.
Really interesting. It's
you know?
interesting because we've got so many things. One is understanding your time and your value, right? Time is money, but what is your value? What is your time worth? And your time might be different to you than my time is to me. So it's coming to that understanding. But I love what you said about it's how you get them in, essentially close it, and have that client be able to move on and practice the tools that you've given them for them to monetize their business. So we've got clients that come in and they will sit and they'll have a meeting with us for 3 hours a week for the next 4 weeks. There's no value in this for anyone at some point other than it's a lot of talking, because now we're spending those hours and they're spending those hours from whatever else they're doing. It's converting that and lessening the time to make it beneficial for everybody. And that's, I think, where you come into this, is how do you maximize everybody's time, both yours and your clients, to make this beneficial on both ends, to have that exchange?
Well, I know we've said it many times, but it is the exchange that's happening between where they want to be and where they are now. And that exchange, that gap, if you will, the tighter we can help them close that gap, the better it is going to be. Because you can talk about moving a product or a service, but you actually want to get into the mode from a business perspective of doing.
Well, I am a little bit more patient than Dawn. And the reason that I'm more patient is because sometimes the bigger the deal, the more time it takes to put it to bed. Simply put, and there's a couple of things here. I can't think of anybody better than to open something on the West Coast than a coach like yourself. Sure. That's the first thing.
Sure.
The second thing is sometimes a deal comes along and I tell her I got to be patient with it because he has and she has been taking advantage so much. This is a big deal. It's a big, big, big deal. And so you're going to have to earn the trust before you can earn the deal. So that ROI now just went from 5 steps down to maybe 10, because I got to get by all this trust issue. But it always happens in media because you can't see it until you do it. And half of it happens to be coming from somebody doing it so that we can capture it. So you're only as good as what you're capturing, and then you have to enhance it. And this is what I've been trying to teach the producers. It's a business. If you miss a minute, you miss the program. So it's a delicate dance. It's a delicate balance. And the one that makes the adjustments has to be us. Because on our end, we're the one they're going to say, listen, you got to do this, this, and this so we can get to where we mutually want to get to. which isn't easy. It's not easy.
And, when I speak about fast and I speak about condensing time, it's actually the step before what you're referring to. Once you make the commitment to engage, it's very important to be thorough. And a misstep can actually also eat into one's profits and eat into one's and a business's ROI. But it is having the clarity that we help to bring to the forefront very quickly. Because oftentimes, believe it or not, a business wants to make more money. They want to become more relevant. They want to become more in tune to what's happening now. But they haven't determined the clarity of what that takes. So we talk about the Reinvented Life Center that we're going to be opening here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And the media piece of it, the broadcast piece of it is absolutely going to be the epicenter of it. But the reason that can happen is that the two of you see that opportunity. You see it as incremental growth. And so oftentimes what is very helpful is taking this inventory of one's business as it is today, and it holds true in one's life as well, and then figure out, is it relevant, and am I going into the direction that is going to net me where I want to be? And that's the key, Dawn. What you were saying is, do you have to change everything up? Do we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater? Usually not. Usually if a business has been in business, they're good, but they want to be better. They want to go from good to great, and to go from good to great, one has to be flexible and willing to look at what is serving them well right now and what isn't.
Well,
And
can we
that
talk
is-
about that? Because I know we only have like 4 minutes left.
I know.
That you're not in your usual office space because you had to choose to show up and be flexible and pivot to make this happen. So can
Yes.
you talk about how that works?
Yes, this flexibility, this becoming fluid in what you do. I mean, the beauty of it is we can do this today. I had additional traffic. I actually needed to find, and with a client, a place where I could broadcast from today. It's not the usual studio, it's not the usual space, but it's okay. And that is the types of decisions that businesses need to make on a minute-to-minute basis. It doesn't have to be fancy today. There's so much that has changed. What it has to be is relevant, and it has to be willing to flex and be fluid with anything that comes up. The beauty of the internet and the beauty of being able to do this is we can find office space anywhere. I could come, and what's important is the message I'm delivering.
True.
If it was from my car, if I needed to.
Now, Pamela, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to be able to use this segment on the radio on Monday. So we got to cut it off because it goes over and then it doesn't fit.
Okay.
So,
All right.
But I
Well-
love it. This is a great conversation.
I am thrilled to be here. As always, want to thank you for your time, your expertise, your partnership, your collaboration. This is together work, and thank you everyone, all of the listeners, all of the viewers, for remembering that you can reinvent. You can reimagine your business or your life. Look forward to speaking with everyone next week.
Thank you for tuning in to The Reinvented Life with Pamela Chanel David. Tune in each week so we can work and grow together to become the best version of ourselves. Keep striving, keep dreaming, keep working, and embrace change. You may contact Pamela Chanel at info@thereinventedlife.com.